All right. Da-da. Did I do everything right? This is the part where I always have to say, oh, did I do everything right?
Yeah.
Hey, Max.
Hey. Hey,
Max.
what?
Max.
Yeah, yeah.
So today was a pretty boring day. Anything happened?
No, just another boring day in Bitcoin land.
So I'm going to go over to Coin Market Cap,
Yeah.
see what the price of. What's the price? Whoa! All right, 15,170. It's up. Hi, superstars. 16,000 tomorrow. They're saying. Max,
Yes.
I saw somebody tweet Alistair Milne
Yeah.
say something along the lines if everybody's bull market price projections are always way too low.
Uh-huh.
So, do you think 28,000 is too low?
Oh, well, 28,000 number. Well, first of all, you have to as people are commenting on now, the order book on Bitcoin, the buys and sells. There's hardly anything to sell between here and 20,000. So and I think as the price starts to move up here, any sell orders are going to be pulled anyway. So there's just going to be, it's like air from here to 20,000, which is going to be a lot of momentum, and it's going to hit the news, and it's going to be a new all-time high. And then you're going to see a burst to 28,000. I think that just is my feeling. Technically, you see a burst of 28,000, and then you'll see a pause,
Mm-hmm.
and you could see a 10% correction before the thing starts to move up again. But I think that's just a pause number. It's not trading. I don't advocate trading. I don't say buy and sell and try to time it. I just think since the Bitcoin was above, got down to 4 or 5 thousand. It got down to 3,500 after the 20,000 peak in 2017, and then it reached the bottom, and then it started to make that move 4, 5, 6 thousand. So I've been saying now for 2 years that 28,000 is in play. I mean that it's this move to 28,000 is a natural move in a multi-year bull market. We started talking about Bitcoin on Kaiser Report when it was $1 back in 2011. And so and we know there's a lot of volatility, and that's just my thought is that it hits 28,000, but I could be wrong. It could just blow right through 28,000. Ultimately, since 2011, we've said our target back then was 100,000 per Bitcoin when the Bitcoin was $1. And recently, I felt that conviction was so strong in Bitcoin, and that there is so much now institutional support, and people like Michael Saylor are coming in on the corporate balance sheet side, et cetera. I said, okay, now we really have to say that this is going to trade pari passu with gold. So we really got to
Mm.
raise that target to 400,000. So 400,000, I think, is now a target that we can legitimately look at. And but also, the dollar was incredibly weak today. It shows that Bitcoin is trades and the dollar are against each other. It's kind of correlated against a negative dollar to some degree. It's a lot closer than anything else. Dollar was very weak due to ongoing structural problems with the U.S. dollar, and election chaos in America is really got the dollar very weak today, which is very good for Bitcoin, gold, and silver. Gold and silver both had big days as well.
Yeah.
We've been talking about gold, silver, and Bitcoin. We don't really just focus on Bitcoin exclusively. We started talking about gold in 2003. And when Kaiser Report started in 2009, we were heavily into gold and silver. We started talking about Bitcoin in 2011, but we didn't abandon gold. We've been saying, look, the one consistent thing we've been saying since then is that we've always thought the dollar was end of empire, fiat money catastrophe waiting to happen.
Yep. And gold miners did have an amazing day today. I had one gold miner in my portfolio that was up, it closed up almost 16%. So even outperformed Bitcoin today in terms of the portfolio. And yeah, this is the remarkable thing is that with this election and the chaos happening, I mean, no matter, well, if Biden gets in, obviously he's a lame duck, right? Because he's said he's only going to be one term. He wouldn't, I don't think he'll, he might live 4 years, but he might not be totally there for even the next year. But he would have he wouldn't be in control of the Senate, and just a tiny, tiny, tiny majority in the House, which would probably be taken away in 2022. But the interesting thing to me was on November 3rd with the election, when suddenly, remember, everybody thought like Trump was definitely going to win. It's a repeat of 2016. And what happened? The dollar soared and the yuan crashed. The Chinese renminbi, the Chinese currency crashed. And then as soon as it swapped around and they were like, oh no, Biden's going to win, the reverse happened. The yuan soared and the dollar crashed. So that was remarkable because it like really said what the heart of this election is about. And it's about that and how the U.S. empire is going to decline, how it's going to end. How is it going to go peacefully under like a Biden, and we just slowly disintegrate and we don't do anything about the fact that we sent all our jobs there and they're kicking our ass in terms of high tech? Or are we going to go down shooting, right, under Trump? And obviously, if Biden's in there, we're going to just we're going to keep the status quo.
Right. The relationship with the U.S. and China is the key relationship now, has been for years, and it will define the 21st century. And you saw that playing out in the Forex market during this last few days. And in America, of course, people think that the relationship with Russia has some meaning and that there is something to keep an eye on with Russia. And the U.S.-Russia relationship compared to the U.S.-China relationship is almost non-charting. It's almost non-existent. There's almost no kind of strategic relationship at all going on there compared to what's happening with China. And I think because Biden has been so much in the pocket of China for so long, that it's been in the interest of what you call the smug industrial complex, the New Yorker magazine and CNN and Washington Post, MSNBC, to really deflect and distract from Biden China. And certainly what's been revealed with the Hunter Biden exploits recently certainly underscores this. To deflect and distract from that, they've been pushing this Russiagate hoax now for 4 years. That's been obliterated and disproven multiple times. But it still hangs in the air because the power of mainstream media to bamboozle.
Lots of comments coming in. A lot of them saying hi, Max and Stacy.
Oh, hi.
Usually there's some critique by now, like, fix your hair. My hair is a mess. Or, turn up the volume, something.
We're just too good. We get a lot of great swag. I'm going to point out this great swag we got. This is from the folks
at Magical Crypto Conference.
These are from the folks at Magical Crypto Conference. So let's see if I know all these people. This is Samson Mao. He's the lion, right?
Well, the thing is, they sent us this. Samson sent us these. Yeah. And, I was like, oh, no, not more really cheap junk. And I was like, I was impressed with how high quality this is.
High quality swag over there at Magical Crypto Conference.
Yeah, I wonder where he had it made.
I'm guessing China.
Well, of course.
So that's Samson Mao. He's the lion. I guess Samson and the lion. Is that a story? Lion, Samson and the lion. There's a reference to it. So this is Charlie Lee. He's the chicken. I believe he's the chicken because during Litecoin, he's always said it was a chicken and egg problem. That the price goes up with adoption, but adoption goes up with the price going up. So that's why I believe he's the chicken. Fluffy Pony is, of course, the pony, right? So how he got the name Fluffy, I think he called himself Fluffy Pony originally.
It's probably like Max and I are Gen X and Boomer. It's probably some sort of game that millennials play online or something. Like it's probably taken from something. We just are like, they're probably out there going, okay, Boomer.
Well, what's great about this is, when you see Fluffy Pony out in the wild at some conference or something, you just naturally walk up to him and just address him as Fluffy. and he just like goes with it, and it's like, wow, this guy really is fluffy pony. And this is Whale Panda. So I asked Whale Panda last year as how he got the name Whale Panda. So
Ah.
yeah, so because going back several years now, there was a coin called Panda Coin, and he
Oh.
was a whale in the Panda Coin. He's a big alt trader going back many years. I don't know what is currently he's doing, but that's how he got the name Whale Panda. So there you have it. That's the Magical Crypto Conference crew. Thank you so much for the swag. We enjoyed speaking at the event that it was the first online virtual reality event.
That's the first time I ever spoke as an avatar, and I have to tell you, you get really used to it so fast. And even in a like a rudimentary, not like totally sophisticated virtual reality, and I was walking around that virtual world, and I think I've told you before, but like when I when my avatar like took off and floated out over the ocean and to the edge of the fake world, like I felt like I was in danger. Like I felt like, oh my god, like I'm
Oh, yeah.
and I didn't have VR goggles on or anything. Like it was just like me looking at the computer screen.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty cool, and you get used to it quick. You're just like meeting people, seeing people talking. Your avatar could be like a deranged, monkey or something, but it's like you just get past that quick.
Yeah. And Adam back and I did a session, and he floated away and went off screen. So 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 yeah, then I started talking to Samson Mao instead.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's fine.
I think this is going to be our new world though, because I don't know if we're ever going to get out of lockdown. Um I don't I think I think they should come up with something new for this presidential thing, like whatever is happening. They should just like come up with a new lockdown sort of thing. Like if we're going to be in lockdown for the next year, these two should just be insulting each other on a Skype call that we could tune into every once in a while and
Uh-huh.
join a Zoom call and say like, "Oh, look, they're slagging each other off now," and
Well,
or
the big data point of the whole show was the map of the United States painted orange, right? So people are saying, look, this is really when Bitcoin kind of secedes from everything, and I'm voting for Bitcoin. And because with Bitcoin, you can rebuild your political reality and the global political reality. And so this is like could be the last presidential election in America where the stakes are as high as they are. I think by the next 2024, so much of the economy will be run by Bitcoin, and the nation states will be in such a state of disrepair, and fiat money will be utterly discredited that the presidential election will be much less of a factor to people's lives.
well, in terms of what I see, I feel like at this point it would be better if Biden does get in, um, and that Trump does pull a shit show on leaving and do exactly what the Hillary team did to him and set him up with all sorts of investigations for the next few years. He has way more than Hillary and those guys had, right? They have like actual hard drive filled with all sorts of emails. So just start a special prosecution. It helps everybody, I think, if the president's diverted. It's not like even if Biden had his full mental capacities, like the fact that the Senate wouldn't be under his control is it's not like anything can happen. But I think that point of the China situation, it was at the point where it could get violent, and we're still in Afghanistan 20 years later. We can't even beat a nation without any army. So like
Yeah.
what would we do against China? I don't want a war with China because they could do stuff here. Like they could actually hit America. That's the like they always are like, oh, Saddam Hussein could like drop a bomb on London. It's like that was never going to happen. But China, yeah, they could do shit.
Well, remember that show, The Wire? There's great characters in there, and one of
Yeah.
the lines that survives as a meme to this day is, "If you come at the king, you best not miss."
Yeah.
Right. So this is what happened with this election was they came after Trump with everything, and they essentially missed, right?
Yeah.
Because he's wounded. It's not clear that what's going to happen. The Senate is Republican. The Democrats lost seats in the House. They maintained all kinds of governorships and legal folks across jurisdictions across the Republicans did great. They did fantastically well.
Yeah.
So he got nicked, right? But now, he's always said, I'm a counter puncher. It's like, I'm always going to come back. So what he comes back with now, having not been, like the blue wave never happened. So, I mean, he could come back now. They could drop subpoenas on the Joe and Hunter Biden.
Yeah.
They could, number one. So that becomes an active investigation. The Durham report is yet to come out. That's number two, which is an active investigation into the coup of 2016 led by Hillary. Then you have this ongoing process with the votes and the various, et cetera, going on. Then let's say they put Biden in the White House. Then you're right, because he's then out of government and he's got the ability to basically set himself up, number one, for 2024. Constitutionally, he can run in 2024. The Constitution says you can't run for president 3 times. This is the limitation. So he would have ran and lost, but that's only 2. So he would be able to run in 2024. He could be a kingmaker in 2024. Trump Jr. could be in, et cetera. So the Democrats wounded the beast, and they might regret that.
I think from my personal observation, that's an interesting one. But I think I don't even think Trump really wanted to be president the first time, let alone run again in 4 years. I think there's too much out of his control. I think he likes the reality TV part of it, and I think he likes flying around and having mega rallies. I think what he's going to do is set up a TV network. I think he could totally do it, or an alternative, like some sort of media conglomerate where he takes on Twitter. He's got 85 million followers. Twitter has, Twitter stock has been collapsed by 22% the other day because they only have 185 million daily active users. And it's becoming a problem. Not only are they censoring everybody, but it's just filled. The only people they're allowing to speak freely are the extremely smug. So nobody likes smug people. Like, who wants to go onto a social media where you're blocked from saying anything, but you have to listen to Rachel Maddow and Nero Tandon and all these people who are like, I'm so much better than you, you deplorable scum. Don't even dare tweet at me. It's like, well, who wants that, right? But there's an obvious demand. People want other social media. They want a place to share horrible dank memes about each other and talk and discuss things, like perhaps not in a polite, sophisticated way, but
right. So he launches a network. Now, we've had a precedent with Ted Turner. Ted Turner launched CNN and became a global sensation and set a worldwide standard for rolling 24-hour news. Now, a couple of things. First of all, CNN, by the way, is up for sale. We know this to be a fact. Time Warner is trying to dump CNN. Trump could buy CNN, potentially. And then, obviously, he could then launch a Twitter competitor. So he'd have a CNN plus a Trump Twitter competitor. So that's 2 ways to have a very strong media presence. And then, again, his kingmaker status goes up because he is a former president, which you have incredible cachet.
When he has a network, he's not just going to be a Ted Turner. He's going to be presenting a show. He's going to be like the star in there. And he's going to probably, just like every time Joe Biden or probably President Kamala Harris does a press conference, he's going to hold a press conference.
He'll be live tweeting, live broadcasting on CNN, renamed Trump Cable Network, TNN.
Yeah.
And it'll just be a live 24-hour Trump show.
Yeah.
And that will, and he's got goodwill in the Republican Party. Remember, when he started, the Republican Party was very standoffish with Trump. They thought they didn't know what to expect here. And he had no friends really in the Republican Party.
No, he still doesn't have any. But
well, after 4 years, though, the Republicans are firmly behind Trump. I don't think
he'll bring Tucker Carlson. That will be one of his first hires.
Tucker Carlson could be a hire for Trump cable news. And, that could be a media monster.
But yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, then he'd be like, it just seems like his personality is very narcissistic and very fragile. So, in 4 years' time, he's going to be as old as Joe Biden. Joe Biden's like really old. Mm-hmm. He's an old 78-year-old. Like, I've had family members who are 78 and sprightly. Your mom was like really like together at 92. But, I had a grandmother who was like as old as Joe Biden by the time she was 78. She was like
Mm.
living in assisted living, just barely holding it together. And he's one of those people. And, you know, I don't think, my sense is that Donald Trump's not going to be that way. Like he's going to be more together. He doesn't seem like he's declining, but I just don't think he actually, I think he likes golfing and just like socializing and hanging out with his friends and tweeting and doing shit like that. Like you get asked all the time from all sorts of people, right? If you're in the Oval Office, people are like, do this. And can you answer this? Can you sign that? And you're like, oh, like you can't just go away for 2 weeks. You can't go on vacation for 3 weeks.
Yeah, I guess I see your point there that not being in office could be a good career booster.
Yeah. Plus, he has like $400 million in debt that he needs to default on. Everybody's like, oh, he's vulnerable to bribes or whatever because he owes 400 million. Like he's gonna go bankrupt again, right? Like nobody's. That's why he's moving to Florida. Nobody wants to pay. Nobody's gonna pay
Well, it
that.
depends. The thing is, like having worked on Wall Street myself for many years, maintaining a huge debt position is handy as a tax write-off. So it's a legal tax write-off,
Mm-hmm.
and especially now, when so many of the tax write-offs have been taken out, and the tax shelters have been removed, there's very few ways to shelter taxes, and having a big debt portfolio is one of them. So that could just be managed one way or another. He could wind that up or down, dial it up, dial it down. You want more debt for more tax relief, fine. Yet less, whatever. I don't see that as being just a line item on a very big balance sheet. But I guess though his business empire is still intact. I mean, the hotels are still running. COVID, I think, crushed the asset values, and so the debt to equity ratio is probably higher than it was. But
Yeah.
in 4 years' time, I think by then definitely COVID will not be a factor within 4 years. So
Well, how about DC? Like the Trump Hotel in DC is actually one of the best hotels I've ever been to. And we've been to loads of 5-star hotels. It's so good. Um, but now they have psilocybin mushrooms that you can,
in DC.
yeah, you're allowed to, that they've been legalized.
So I could be in the Trump Hotel in that lobby area where they have that incredible cheese cart,
Oh, the cheese platter.
and you could have psilocybin mushrooms with your cheese and
Yeah.
charcuterie.
Yeah. I mean, the last time we went to the Trump hotel, it's pretty wild. It's so interesting because like anybody could stay there and you go there and the bar is just amazing and this huge lovely open space. And like there were all those like CIA agents, those retired CIA agents, retired whatever, and they were
Mm.
like, Max, Stacy, and they love our show. And I finally had to block that guy. I gave him my email address and he kept on emailing all the time like crazy
Oh,
shit.
really? Mm.
Yeah. And I had to block him because I was like, oh my God, this guy is a total nutter and he won't shut up. But like you see all sorts of famous politicians going in and out, just
No, it's an
walking
awesome
around.
hotel, to be quite frank. I mean, it's one of the best hotels around.
Yeah. I mean, the actual rooms are really nice. The beds is super quiet, but like the people watching is unparalleled, right? I've never seen
Also, the
anything.
staff there is really nice.
Oh,
They're
they're
so nice. They're just like very. They're not. They're just
down
like
to earth.
down
Like,
to earth folk. They're just like. They just make everyone feel really welcome there, even though it's a very over the top 5-star looking hotel. I mean, but it's still like everyone's just having a good time.
yeah, because in some really nice hotels, the staff are all like hoity toity and acts like
Yeah,
snobby.
yeah, it's a little bit over the top on the snobby part.
Yeah, they have a lot of, in fact, a lot of the staff were from like Africa or Asia. They
Yeah.
they weren't actually American or European. They were just like,
Mm-mm. No.
anyway, I recommend it. We should have like some sort of meet up there if if lockdown ever ends and we get to meet the people again. We should do that. And what do you think about where was it? Tell me. Was it Washington State? No, it was Oregon, which has done what Portugal did, which
Uh
is
huh.
just decriminalize all drugs, all class A drugs like heroin, cocaine, meth.
Yeah.
Um, Now the argument is like everybody. I saw a lot of people online. Are people going to start taking heroin? What actually happened in Portugal was that overdose rate went down. Actual use of drugs went down. You know, um, it obviously as well, you know, America, we incarcerate way too many people. It's just like a prison state. You have to admit that, right?
Hmm.
Like, and so it makes sense to start at the edge, like we started with marijuana, but with marijuana, you know, it's still illegal in the US, right? It's a federal crime to use marijuana, to sell marijuana, but so many states have now legalized it. So there's a confrontation that the feds, the Department of Justice has not been willing to take, you know, and it's too late now, obviously, because more than half of the states in the United States, there's something like 6 or 7 new states that now legalize marijuana in the past week.
Hmm.
So it's too late for the Department of Justice to do anything about it. It's going to have to be legalized at a federal level as well. But with this, so here's Oregon with the first to decriminalize heroin, Class A drugs, right? Heroin, meth, and coke. So what do you think of that? Do you think it's a good idea? You know, it's not like the marijuana situation. They're not going to like have stores where you could buy it, but they're decriminalized it.
Yeah. Well, I think you have a population that's under a lot of stress, and so people are going to turn to drugs in a way that, and these class A drugs are highly addictive and they're
Yep.
highly destructive, and so in European some European cities like in Switzerland or something, they might have a shooting gallery set up for heroin users, but it's an extremely well organized country with all extraordinary welfare states kind of built into the system. But in the U.S., you don't have that really built in. There's no, the healthcare situation is horrid,
Yep.
and social structures are collapsing, and the institutions like government and other institutions are in disarray. So just adding class A highly addictive opiates into that mix, I think that's going to exacerbate some of the underlying problems. It will defund the narcotics trade to some degree, which is good. It could defund the opiate peddlers from OxyContin, maybe. That could be an interesting byproduct. But the thing about drugs I've often thought about is that they have been with humanity since the beginning, but it's always been tied to ritual in some way.
Mm.
So you have like psilocybin mushrooms and hallucinogenics and things like that, imbibed in conjunction with some rituals, social rituals. I think that that's an interesting history, and it does. I think that's part of why humans evolved this kind of meta consciousness over time, is because of groups getting together. They call it the what do they call humans, or the hallucinogenic ape or something like that. The
Ah, I like that. The
right.
hallucinogenic ape. I
It's
need to
like
I need
yeah.
to retitle this episode once we're done broadcasting. The hallucinogenic ape.
Yeah, yeah, and you have like peyote and
I gotta write that down.
the First Nations people were into this type of thing, and it was part of the culture, and so you're communicating with the spirit world, etc. But it's done in a group setting. When you have individuals alone and isolated taking drugs, it increases that sense of isolation, I think, and increases anxiety. It increases a lot of problems. You get the Travis Bickle effect, right? Travis Bickle is an
Yeah.
outsider, and his paranoia and anxieties from being an outsider are inflamed by the drug use. But in a group, in a cultural setting, as part of a ritual, you can see how humans have embraced the hallucinogenic qualities of psychedelics to have a euphoric type nirvana esque commune
Mm.
with forces greater than those that they're dealing with day to day, especially the day to day life of just dealing with the pressures of life can be cumulative and anxiety provoking. And if there's a way to release that ritualistically, periodically, it's also big in religions. Obviously, I think religions are kind of organized around ritualistic hallucinogenic taking is really the origins of religion. The fact that they've been taken out of religion over time is why religions have more or less petered out in terms of their relevancy.
I think from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong in the comments here, because I've never done any of like the peyote or any of the other South American stuff, ayahuasca and stuff like that, is like shamans. There's actually a person in the community who that's their role. They're elders who walk you through the journey. It's not like you just go and drop some ayahuasca and just like get
Right.
stoned.
Yeah,
It's
shamans and also the witch doctor. I mean the doctor, the
Yeah, but there's somebody to help you with the journey. There's always
right.
somebody holding your hand saying, okay, you've taken this. You're going to throw up now. You're going to do this. Just like I'm walking you through it. This is to be expected. So you don't have those panic attacks and start freaking
Well,
out.
we just saw that interesting documentary about the acid in the 1970s and during the
Yeah.
Timothy Leary period,
Yeah.
and the great leaders of the acid revolution, that they were believing in acid as a way to transcend all the restrictions and constrictions of
Yeah.
America post-war 1970s.
Yeah.
And they fulfilled that role of the shaman, who held your hand during a trip on acid. And acid was legal for a very short period of time. Then it became illegal. And that was a whole segment of pop American history, going back 40, 45 years, that it's interesting, and a lot of literature tied to this has been popular over the years. Carlos Castaneda,
Hmm.
his books, all about peyote and shamanism and achieving higher states of consciousness, I think, are beautifully written, beautiful tales that, even if you don't take drugs or do drugs, I have no interest in these. These books, I think, are still good literature in their own right.
Somebody's calling it a trip sitter,
Trip sitter,
is what they're called.
that's cool.
So
That sounds like the new Uber. It's like the Uber of acid taking. Call tripsitter.com. Yes, call tripsitter.com and someone will come to your home and hold your hand while you drop acid. Tripsitter.com, now valued at $57 billion. The IPO expected next week.
how much you want to bet somebody's going to make an ad on that and like put it up on YouTube and have you saying that, and they're going
I've already dropped the orange pill. So the
to.
orange pill is the ultimate acid of all acids. Once you drop the orange pill, and it's not that easy actually to drop the orange pill of Bitcoin. People mistakenly think it is a lot easier than it really is. It takes a good long time for the residue of the hallucinogenic properties of the orange pill Bitcoin acid to
Oh yeah.
reach the critical parts of your metaconsciousness to fuse you with
Everybody's yelling
nation.
at you. They're saying it was orange sunshine, not LSD.
Well,
That
Orange
documentary.
Sunshine was a brand of LSD.
Yeah, that was the documentary was called Orange Sunshine.
Yeah, yeah. The Orange Sunshine is the name of the brand. Is the name of the film, and that's right. It was a branded
And this is
form of
orange
acid.
pill.
This is
Get it?
orange pill.
And we have orange chairs. We have orange echo blockers.
Yeah, yeah. Everything's orange here. We've gone full orange, full orange.
We've gone full orange, but you never really hear about people taking LSD. I guess the thing is these psilocybin mushrooms, but in microdose.
Yeah, microdose. That's why this is called microdose of orange pill.
Yeah, yeah.
Microdosing is big. It's even featured on that film, that series we like with the lawyers in Chicago.
The good fight.
The Good Fight. Yeah, the
That
Good
Diane
Fight.
Lockhart. She
Diane Lockhart's a role model for women, I think.
Hi, Bogota. A lot of people in Malibu and Los Angeles in the
Oh,
group.
of course. You talk about getting high on the beach in Malibu. It's like it's in the ether, and they're like tuning in, like, oh, I'm gonna get tripped out on this podcast with Max and Stacy right here on the beach in Malibu. Cowabunga, baby, cowabunga.
I got so
Hang
many.
10.
I got so many people that responded to my Swan Bitcoin interview where Corey Clipson was talking about meeting Keanu Reeves. And I told the story where when I was about 19 or 20 and I was coming out of my apartment early in the morning and nobody else was there. It was just like,
Do you mind if I get some macadamia nuts while you're telling this?
honey,
What?
that's rude.
No, it's not. I'll be right back.
Max doesn't like my stories.
No,
But
I know the story. I just want to get a few macadamia nuts.
especially about other guys. But so, the point is that I came out of my apartment building at like 7, 8 in the morning to move my car, so I didn't get a ticket. And I came out like a total wreck, like you wouldn't believe. Like I had this ripped tank top, ripped bright yellow leggings, huge hair all over the place. And I'm walking down the stairs. I see a guy standing there, just standing there in the middle of the sidewalk, like with nobody else around. And he's just like looking. And I was like, holy shit, that's Keanu Reeves. Oh my God, what do I do? I need to turn around. I'm going to look weird if I turn around. I have to run away. I have to hide. And so I just kept walking and like put my head down and was just like, do, 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 do. And he's like, hi. And I was like, I was so angry. I was like, I was so pissed off that Keanu Reeves was saying hi to me when I looked like this. Like, couldn't he see the state of me? But now I realize,
Did he look into your soul?
No, I was like, of course, at that time, like he was, a huge heartthrob superstar. So, it was like my moment to shine. I had him all alone on this whole street, and I was too wrecked to say hi because I was too embarrassed about how I looked.
And what year was this?
I don't know. It was like 1990.
1990. Cool.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people sent me messages. Somebody said, I met Keanu recently because he's building his new house at the end of my brother's street. He lived in hotels for years and years and years and didn't even have a house.
Yeah, you know who else we met like that? Billy Bob Thornton.
No, we didn't meet Billy Bob Thornton. He walked past us.
Right, but he lives in that
also,
hotel, Sunset Marquis.
Yeah.
Like for 5, 6, 7 years. That one in West Hollywood that we go to.
Yeah. Somebody's mentioning, we also saw David Bowie walk past us.
Yeah, David Bowie walked us during that huge snowpocalypse in New York City. And we were the only ones out in the street. And then we were near Soho, and we looked down the street, and you could tell right away. I'm like, there's only one guy out there, and you knew it was David Bowie, and that's like a block away from where he lives. He had just been to Dean and DeLuca, which is a high-end gourmet food shop, where apparently he buys a lot of stuff there. And that was cool.
Yeah. Who was his producer guy?
Oh, yeah. I forget now. David Bowie's producer. We often come to this point in the conversation where we can't remember David Bowie's producer. And we got to look it up again.
I know. We're so old that we can't remember it shit. Like nothing.
No, it's all slipping away now.
It's funny because like Brian Eno.
Yes, Brian
Because
Eno.
Brian Eno is apparently, he told me himself, he's a huge fan of Max Kaiser. And,
really?
Yeah, like a fanatical fan of you. Like
really?
He was quoting you to me.
Really?
And yeah, Max always forgets it. So, nevertheless, Brian Eno is a huge fan of Max Kaiser. And I met him at the George Galloway show. I was working on that with them, helping them out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Brian Eno was interviewed, and he's like, "Oh my God!" He's like, "Stacy Herbert," and I was like, "Wow, okay." He's like, "Max Kaiser is a genius," and like proceeded to, quote you all the time to me.
Really?
And that was right after we had come back from New York, and we were sitting around talking for like an hour afterward, me, George, and Brian Eno and stuff. And I mentioned, I was like, oh my God, we were in New York City. And guess what? David Bowie walked past us.
Yeah.
And then Brian didn't say, he was like, oh, that's really cool. And then afterward, I found out that he like produced all of Bowie's, like all these records with Bowie. And I was like, oh my God, I feel so embarrassed that I was like saying we walked past him.
He was probably embarrassed thinking that you already knew that, but that he had a conversation with him that he was supposed to remember but couldn't. And so it was just awkward all around. It was like a Mexican standoff of awkwardness. David Bowie, Stacy, and Brian Eno all awkwardly distancing themselves from each other for fear of embarrassing themselves and somebody else. And nothing was said. And then Keanu Reeves showed up. And they did Matrix Part 7. And this time, it's about the orange pill. You got Morpheus. He's like, This is going to
That's
be,
what I'm
which
saying.
one do you want to take? The blue pill, the red pill, or the orange pill? You know, and Keanu's like,
That's what Keanu Reeves was standing there on that corner. I think.
orange
Oh,
pill.
what was the name of the road? It was right where that Korean embassy is, right off Wilshire
La
Boulevard.
Seneca? Seneca Road?
No,
Hollywood Boulevard?
It's near La Brea and Wilshire.
La Brea and Wilshire?
Yeah, but
Pacific Coast Highway?
Keanu Reeves was there to tell me to take the orange pill, and I
Yeah.
didn't. I was too embarrassed
No, you
because my
probably
hair was
did.
a mess.
It got through into your nut, as our friend the artist taxi driver says. In your nut! In your nut!
Well, I found the meaning of that. Like, I've been thinking of that story of the what if you.
So there's a meaning to the story that we have yet to really fully understand. So we got to really dig into it a little bit more than we have, because there's some more layers to it.
So how did that happen? I wonder if Stacy hates the people saying Max is a genius as much as Max hates hearing her old boyfriend stories. Keanu Reeves.
Keanu Reeves? What?
That's how these stories like evolve online. It's like suddenly Keanu Reeves is Stacy's ex-boyfriend.
So she's a woman though. She maybe decoded your body language.
How do I know it's a woman? Let me see.
Because only a woman would write something like that.
Or a stoned man. I can't.
So she was decoding your body language, and it was all a ruse to cover the fact.
No, it's a guy named Maury Ballstein.
That's actually not a woman. Maury Ballstein? Jeez, I've heard some interesting names in my time, but that one take the biscuit. Maury Ballstein. Hello, I'm Maury Ballstein. I was called, and I'm here. Show me where the problem is.
Oh, I see. Maury Ballstein is actually Zip Zap Zop in our group. He does a lot of our.
Oh, Zip Zap Zop? Yeah, he does great memes.
A lot of our memes. Yeah.
So Zip Zap Zop is actually Maury Ballstein in another life.
No wonder he changed his name to Zip Zap Zop.
Yeah, if I had to name Maury Ballstein, I mean, that would be a tough moniker to carry through life. It's like, we got the dry cleaning for number 7. Maury Ballstein? Wow.
I feel like I'm on hallucinogenics right now.
That's crazy.
I feel like I'm on.
That's a cool name, though. I'd definitely stick it into a Tarantino film.
I think it's like a made up. I think it's a made up name.
Maury? Is it Murray? Murray Ballstein or Morty?
Morty. Maury. Maury Ballstein. I think it's like a Giga Chad made up name.
Maury. Man, Maury Ballstein.
Wasn't there that Maury Povich?
Yeah, Maury Povich. Right, he did that show. He was big on TV for a while. Maury Povich, and he married a newscaster woman.
Yeah,
an Asian woman who was a big, very big newscasting in New York for a while. Maury Povich did some investigative journalistic show, so it was kind of
something
wacky.
seems to. I kind of remember something went horribly wrong. There were a lot of.
Remember Mort Downey?
Morton Downey.
Mort Downey invented Alex Jones. That style of over the top shouting. I mean, also Max Kaiser, is definitely antecedent to a bit of who did I just mention?
So Maury Povich was married to Connie Chung, and then you were talking about Morton Downey Jr.
Morton Downey Jr., yeah. He was so shouty, and he was like the first guy on TV to do that whole shouty thing.
Oh, tell the story, like how he ended up losing a job. So he had all these big warts on his face, remember? And then he had them all cut off, and then because he became famous. And then
his warts became famous?
Yes.
They tried to start shows of their own.
Oh my God, look at these photos.
His warts were getting bigger contracts than he was.
Yeah. And he did these trashy talk show, right? Where he had a deranged audience members revealing all these he was. Yeah. And then he needed some media attention, so he pretended that he got beaten up by some anti-Semites in a public restroom.
Right.
And he had black eye and all this stuff, and did a press conference.
So it was the precursor to the guy from that movie Empire in Chicago.
Yeah. But before Jussie Smollett, there was Morton Downey Jr.
Yeah.
Smollett. And they quickly found out that it was faked.
Right.
And then he lost his career.
He lost his gig.
I wonder whatever happened to him. Look at him. He's pretty
He fell off. He fell off the media horizon.
And those big giant fake teeth. Look at
Yeah,
that.
he had a really big head, big. But
Oh my god.
is anyone when I was growing up in the '70s, we had public access television,
Oh yeah.
and so on that in New York was a guy named Ugly George, and Ugly George had a very big portable video camera, Portapack, Sony Portapack, and it's like a huge thing really in those days. And he used just to walk up to strange women in the street and said, "I would like to get naked with you." And then so many times these women would say, "Okay," and then you see them naked in some apartment somewhere.
Oh my god.
And that was the whole show. It was called The Ugly George Show. And this one ran for quite some time. So that was considered avant-garde public access television, 45 years ago.
What? Is that true? Somebody's saying Morton Downey was Rebecca De Mornay's father. She was in Risky Business. Remember that?
Oh yeah,
With Tom Cruise.
that's her dad.
That can't be true.
Wow, that's interesting.
Like, if this is fake news, I'm going to go look this up. And if you're lying to me, I'm going to ban you eternally from this.
Get the band hammer.
Surprise, surprise. He died of lung cancer, of course.
He was a heavy smoker.
He was a heavy smoker. Children, 4. Where are
Downey
they?
Jr.
He went bankrupt.
As you do. When you're a shock jock from the far edges of nowhere.
I don't see any mention of Rebecca De Mornay being
fake
his
news.
This is fake news. Oh my god, you're banned forever.
Ban that person. Ban hammered.
He was sued for allegedly appropriating the words and music to his theme tune from 2 songwriters. He was sued for $40 million after bringing the then stripper Kelly Everts onto the show and calling her a slut, a pig, a hooker, and a tramp, claiming that she had venereal diseases and banging his pelvis against hers. So Downey punched Stuttering John during an interview done for the Howard Stern show, while also shouting verbal insults at Stuttering John, referring to him as an uneducated slob. The situation then began to evolve into a brawl between the two until Downey had to be pulled off of Stuttering John by security. The entire incident was caught on camera. So
right.
So this is the sort of guy.
Right. So he was kind of the first to bring this type of mayhem to television.
Yes, before social media, you had to do really, really, really freaking crazy things.
You do your own stunts
to become viral.
Yeah, you had to go out there and risk your life and limb like a professional wrestler to get some attention out there. You just couldn't go out there and send a few memes out. You had to put your body and life in line of the duty of social awareness.
So on top of the crazy election situation happening, we have, Jerome Powell spoke to, Congress today. I guess he was encouraging Congress to bringing some fiscal policy. Because remember, the Fed, when they print money, I would do our money printer gun, but, it causes a total mayhem here. Speaking of mayhem, like it takes an hour to pick up all the dollars, and then the dollars are getting all wrinkly, so they don't quite go through the thing. So anyway, the thing is, he was encouraging Congress to pass more stimulus, more trillions of dollars, because it would it's better than what the Fed can do, which is just print credit and give it to the banks or take all their dodgy debts off, so it never gets down to the people. So if they're going to do that, though, I want some money this time. We didn't get any money all these other rounds.
We never get any.
I'll go spend it. I'll spend it on Bitcoin. I'll definitely spend it on Bitcoin.
The last relief check that they gave out, that $1,200, if you put it into Bitcoin, you've more than doubled your money.
It was $2,546 today.
Right. So that's the thing about it, is that never become dependent on heroin or the Fed. That Bitcoin releases you from bondage from heroin, crack, the Fed, fiat money, Paul Krugman, Mark Downey Jr., Keanu Reeves. Get free from all this shit with Bitcoin.
There's a whole rumor now, viral online, that Keanu Reeves is my ex-boyfriend.
Yeah. Well, the body language says that story. That it's different than the words that came out of your mouth. The body language said that you and Keanu Reeves were an item in Hollywood for several years, Then he snubbed you at the Academy Awards, and that's when things broke up.
Right. So somebody, the guy who was gave us the fake news that Morton Downey was a
Rebecca De Mornay?
yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, her dad was Wally George. My bad. I'm old too.
Who the frick is Wally George? That's nobody. But the second you said Wally, though, the first name that came into my head was Wally Cox. Do you remember Wally Cox?
Oh.
He was on a lot of these game shows a lot, like Hollywood Squares. He was best friends. Okay, he was like a nerdy guy. He was very like schlubby, unkept, weird, really weird, nerdy guy, Wally Cox. And you'll never guess who his best friend was.
Merv Griffin.
Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando and Wally Cox were best friends. It's just like one of those weird friendships. It's hard to explain it, but I guess it was, opposites attract or something.
Google Tony, what's his name? What?
That doesn't narrow it down much.
Yeah, the director friend of Curie. Tony, the famous, the guy who directed American History X.
Oh,
I hope he
Tony Bag of Donuts.
I hope he doesn't see this.
Tony,
he's supposed to write us a song. Actually, remember?
All those people.
Tony K.
They're full of shit. They say in Hollywood it's always yes, 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 but it never happens. It's all crap. That's why they call it Tinseltown.
No, but speaking of mayhem, Tony K is mayhem, right? Like that's what he does. He's mayhem, and he had to go into hiding at my friend's house. Kiri lived with her for about 2 months because Marlon Brando was going to kill him. So have him killed.
Yeah, right.
Because Tony K ran some sort of acting class in Hollywood, and
that's where he met Keanu Reeves.
No, Marlon Brando was supposed to attend it or do something, and he didn't. So Tony K dressed up as a fat Marlon Brando in a muumuu dress.
Oh yeah.
And then Marlon Brando heard about this and left all these death threats on his voicemail, which he still has, but he left death threats saying he was going to have him killed.
Marlon Brando could be so petty. I gotta be honest. During that whole time when Burt Reynolds was having huge success with Smokey and the Bandit in those movies,
yeah,
Brando came out and really chewed his ass off and said he was a shit actor, overrated. Yeah, he was a real pig about it. There's nothing wrong with Burt Reynolds. I mean, take his performance, for example, in Boogie Nights. I mean, he won the Golden Globe Award that year, and he was nominated for an Academy Award. And, Burt Reynolds is a fine actor, and Marlon Brando should have just shut the fuck up.
Well, the internet is being the internet, and they're starting all sorts of rumors. There's huge pile of rumors about me and Keanu and starting Bitcoin. And I know what this means.
Right. So that means I'm going to be hearing this story more in the future.
It means we're going to be in Hollywood one day. We go out to Los Angeles a lot. We know, I worked in Hollywood. We have a lot of friends in Hollywood. We're going to end up meeting Keanu, and he's going to be like,
so
are you that
Stacy.
fucking Stacy? I didn't start Bitcoin with you. Why are you starting these rumors? And be like, all I said was that I saw you outside in the street in West Hollywood, and that.
Yeah. But your body language said something completely different. It's not about the words. It's about the whole package, the aura. If you watch The Matrix, you would know this. And what about your friend Curie talking about body doubles? She gets confused all the time for the woman.
Well, speaking of Keanu Reeves,
that movie Bus Driver. No, Speed. Who was in that? The actress in Speed. We don't know. We can't remember. You got to look that up too. Okay, we're really. This is the last time we try to do this.
Sandra Bullock.
Yeah, so Sandra Bullock.
My best friend, she looks so much like Sandra Bullock,
she
right?
Does, yeah.
Really. So, in fact, when she was visiting us once in London, we were at the Groucho Club, and the Groucho Club upstairs has at that time, they don't have it anymore, but they had this big snooker table.
Yeah.
And Damien Hirst and this rock star guy, and I'm not going to look it up. He's like one of the guys from Blur, not Damon Albarn, but the other guy. So they would play snooker. They basically nobody else. It was just this one room with a snooker table and two little side sofas.
Jarvis Cocker?
No, in Blur.
Oh,
So
Blur.
he was
Okay, I got him
not Damon
confused
Albarn, but the other
with
guy.
Pulp. I get those confused all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah, no. So it was like those two rock stars always up there. So you never like Damien Hirst and the other guy. Who's the other guy? That somebody will tell me without me having to Google it. It's somebody famous. Anyway, so we went we went up there, and they weren't there yet. So Kiri and I started playing snooker, and then Damien Hirst and this rock star came up, and I think his name is Alex, and they watched us for like 3 hours, and I kept on like I would be like, are you guys want to play now? And they're like, no. It was just like, and Damien would like help us every once in a while, show us how to play, and we didn't know then, but now he's good friends with Ronnie O'Sullivan, but so but when we were leaving, when we were finally done and going, Damien Hirst's girlfriend followed us down the stairs, and she was kind of drunk, and she was like, Sandy, I just want to tell you, I love your stuff. And Kiri said, I'm not Sandra Bullock. And she's like, no, like Speed was amazing. And like, it's like, I'm not Sandra Bullock. She was like, but then one of my friends was friends with Sandra Bullock. And it happened to Sandra Bullock, the opposite. Somebody came up to her and said, Kiri. And she was like,
yeah, they do look so much alike.
And then this person, she shouted Kiri to her. And she's like, no, I'm not Kiri. Why does everybody always call me Kiri?
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty spooky how much they look alike.
Yeah, they look a lot like it. They're like twins. They're like twins. What the hell were we talking about?
Well, we started out talking about Bitcoin, and somehow somehow there's a vast conspiracy now that I'm afraid to go confront online, which is that, somehow Keanu Reeves and I started Bitcoin, and Sandra Bullock
is involved as well at the Groucho Club with Ronnie O'Sullivan.
Yes, Sandra Bullock speaks perfect German.
Right. That's exactly maybe true. They got a big picture of me with Ronnie O'Sullivan.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think you can get that high. Well, you have to drop some acid to get that high.
I've got a huge picture of me and Ronnie O'Sullivan, but it's up too high.
So Bitcoin is now 15,400. It looks like you were masturbating. I just saw that.
No, I'm not. I don't work for the New Yorker. My name's not Jeffrey Toobin.
Oh my God.
That's not my style.
You've got to look at that price go.
I told you there's no volume between 15 and 20,000. There's no sellers. There's nothing out there. There's no. It's people. The demand. Let me explain something.
Okay.
You have in markets what's called seller exhaustion.
Mm-hmm.
So, and number one, number two, it's also very much a key factor here that a lot of this price movement came after BitMEX got essentially busted, right?
Yeah.
So BitMEX is actually been a bad actor in this space for a long time by essentially engaging a lot of fake price discovery and fake market making and wash trading. Yeah. And that they were really impacting the price in a huge way. And they're part of many exchanges. The history of Bitcoin starting when these exchanges first came up, from going back to the very beginning, 90% of the volume in all these exchanges was wash trading or fake trading. So what's happened in the last year or two is that and people ask, well, how can Michael Saylor buy 425 million in Bitcoin and the price, is up somewhat, but if he's bringing in all these other guys like Paul Tudor Jones and Fidelity and all these people, the price seems like it's going sideways. It's because they're mopping up all this fake volume that was just giving bad price discovery for years. So then now these guys have been pushed out of the market. They're not really making the market anymore. So the market's being made now by actual buyers and sellers with real price discovery. And number one. Number two, you've got the seller exhaustion. So the seller exhaustion is that anybody who wanted to sell Bitcoin over the past 2 to 3 years has sold their Bitcoin for whatever reason. And at some point you hit seller exhaustion where really there's nobody selling out there. So then the dynamic of the market changes. So any incremental buy would have a direct impact as an uptick. You see an uptick. right
So
away.
Max, by the way, created the virtual specialist technology. So you created
I
technology that
invented
matches buys and sells and creates
I
prices. So
invented a virtual market making technology in 1996. You have a patent on it. It's called the Virtual Specialist Technologies, patent number 5950176. And I am one of the world's foremost experts on virtual market making. It could be the number one expert in this field, to tell you the truth. So right now you've got buys coming in, resulting in upticks, and those upticks are attracting essentially buy stops. These are orders that are laid into the market that will become market orders once the limit is achieved. So if a price gets to 15,700, it'll trigger a market order to buy.
mm-hmm.
So, and the reason traders put these stops in there is because they're trying to catch a a concentrated large percent move in a concentrated time, right? So traders are managing portfolios. They're trying to report at the end of the year percent gains on those portfolios. So one way to do that is to jam high concentration percent gains into a small period of time. And one way to do that is to stack buy stops at new highs, where upticks, after a seller exhaustion occurs, the upticks bring in new buyers, and those new buyers are having immediate impact in the price in terms of upticks, which attracts more. And it's a cascading on the upside. We're familiar with a downside cascade where
Yeah.
lower prices trigger stop losses,
Yeah.
and that triggers more selling.
So you're saying stop buys are happening on the way. And that's why somebody like Paul Tudor Jones last week said on CNBC that he likes Bitcoin even more at 13,000 than he liked it at 6 or 7,000.
Right, for two reasons. Number one, he's done more analysis. He's gone deeper into the rabbit hole. And number two, he likes the trading action.
Mm-hmm.
So when something shows action like Bitcoin's showing now, it attracts professional traders who are experienced and will be attracted to this. And remember, there's $100 trillion on the sidelines in various managed accounts around the world. Less than 1% of that money is in gold,
Yeah.
and gold is a $8 to $9 trillion asset.
Yeah.
And overall, and that's it's held in, for example, central banks own 33 or 34,000 tons of gold, so they're not part of that $100 trillion of managed money pool, for example. So that's why it wouldn't be included in that number. But so 1% of the real investable assets are in gold. So then Bitcoin is now called $300 billion, not even a half of a trillion. So it's less than 1/10 of 1% of investable world assets are invested in Bitcoin. So,
So what you're saying is Paul Tudor Jones or any of these professional investors know that at certain points there's a bigger pool of money that's going to come in.
exactly. Exactly. So Paul Tudor Jones, in my opinion, and my guessing, is that he bought 1% of his portfolio, representing in Bitcoin. He uses futures contracts. Okay, that's fine. But then he would put in buy stops at higher prices.
Yeah.
And so he's getting pinged right now. So Paul Tudor Jones is like getting pinged on his phone. He's like, okay, I just bought, another whatever, bing, 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 bing. These buy stops are being triggered, and I'm getting into this market deeper. And so that has a self-fulfilling prophecy. And because, as I said, when Paul Tudor Jones first makes that announcement, he's a lead dog. He's the alpha dog in the hedge fund world. Whatever he does, most of the industry will follow him because he is the guy generating the alpha. Alpha dog or alpha. And alpha in hedge fund parlance really is you're generating return on your investment. And if you're and so you've got to generate return on your portfolio or you're going to be out of business. So he's a guy that if you want to, and you're all competing with everybody else. So if you're competing with Paul Tudor Jones, and of course everybody in the hedge fund community is, if he's eking out alpha in Bitcoin, then if you're not in Bitcoin, you're going to underperform Paul Tudor Jones, and therefore you're going to lose money under management and you could be out of business. So that has another knock-on effect.
Well, I just bought some more Bitcoin based on that.
Well, yeah.
You
So
can't go
there's
wrong.
very little volume between here and 20,000, which is the old high. You'll see these buy stops kick in, and you'll see, and the price will go up pretty quickly because there's no sellers. You look at the order book, and there's no offers. Nobody's selling any Bitcoin. So any buys that come in, they create an uptick, which
Well,
creates more upticks, right?
so
So it's just go tick 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 tick.
if you want to get into Bitcoin, sign up at swanbitcoin.com/max, because that's a great way to get in. They have it costs very little compared to Square Cash App. We're investors in Square Cash App as well. And so we're happy to send people there because we may, the stock is up 8% in the
Yeah,
aftermarket right now.
Square reported earnings today. Their Bitcoin business shocked Wall Street, and the stock, last I checked, was just under all-time high. Probably by this time tomorrow, it'll be at new all-time highs.
Yep.
It's going to break 100 billion market cap probably soon. And of course, now PayPal is into it. All these other companies, MicroStrategy with Michael Taylor, put it on their balance
Michael
sheet.
Saylor.
They put it on this balance sheet. So he's got now triggered boardrooms.
His portfolio is up 150 million as of today. They bought 450 million worth. They're up 30%. So, or a little over 30%, I guess. So yeah, but Square Cash App, they bought $50 million worth.
Yeah.
They obviously saw like all their profits. They just reported their earnings came from selling Bitcoin. It would make total sense that the CEO has to buy Bitcoin if he sees the action here, right? Like there's only gains to be made. They're up 30% as well, close to 30%. So that's doing well. But I also saw like the seventh largest energy producer in the world, this huge a conglomerate in Russia. Did you see that story?
No.
So they're hydroelectric power, and they've just announced that they're doing Bitcoin mining. So
there you go. So as I've been saying, you've got the hash wars.
Yeah.
So now Russia has a huge company. Iran is already 2 or 3% of the global hash rate. Venezuela is getting into it. Kazakhstan has just under 1 billion committed to Bitcoin mining. So these are, these, you can laugh at say these countries are not big countries, but this is how it starts. And then pretty soon it'll get down to one of the G20 countries or G7 countries. And they'll say, wait a minute, this is like a Sputnik-like moment.
Yeah.
We're not going to let Iran have the hardest currency in the world and 20% of global hash rate. We better get our ass in gear and start mining Bitcoin. That's why when the U.S., the government has $1 billion of the Bitcoin that they just inherited from that busted Silk Road wallet, they're probably going to auction that off, which is the stupidest thing they should possibly do. The U.S. government needs to accumulate Bitcoin as a strategic reserve, and what better way to do it than to not sell off this $1 billion worth, auction it off?
What? Like we just said, like Jerome Powell is encouraging the government to print a few $1 trillion more. The government can print dollars. They could easily print $1 billion. So why are they selling a hard asset for $1 billion paper dollars that they themselves could print up if they want?
It's an asymmetric bet. Bitcoin has a 40 to 80x return in front of it with almost no downside.
But that's even beyond that is like if the IMF is talking about a new Bretton Woods and all these other governments and nations around the world want out of the dollar, it's like if you want a seat at the table of the new settlement layer that's going to happen globally, you need to have some of these Bitcoins.
This is the new Bretton Woods. When Christine Lagarde says, "Oh, we're going to have a new Bretton Woods," Christine, babe.
You
babe.
just call her Christy.
Christy, babe. Listen, babe. The Bretton Woods, the new one came in 2009, and it was called Bitcoin, and you are late to the party. It's already here, and you are so far behind the curve, babe. You need to either get big or go home.
Right.
N'est-ce pas, mon petit chéri, mon petit pamplemousse, Christine Lagarde? J'aime bien l'argent, j'ai imprimé dans mon sous-appartement. Voilà, je m'appelle Christine Lagarde.
Max loves talking like a French lady.
Oui, Christine Lagarde. Bonjour.
Wow. Somebody in our chat room here, they invented time travel.
Oh, really? That's cool.
I believe them. If it's on the internet.
Well, That's an interesting idea. Really, we could dive into that
No,
if
I want
you're
to talk more
interested.
about this. So because people asked if that the $1 billion worth of the 39,000 Bitcoin
Yeah.
that the U.S. government sees. So this is pretty interesting. It's hard to tell. Like I've pieced it together from some various online outlets, but also the government actually filed a court filing to actually, what do they call it, forfeiture of this assets. So they have these Bitcoin, but the government can't officially, until the courts say, okay, we're transferring ownership to you, the government owns this.
Right.
So they filed for that. So it seems like, from what I'm piecing together, and maybe somebody's read more, so if jump into our conversation here while you're stacking sats at swanbitcoin.com/Kaiser. Jump into the conversation and tell me if I've got any of this wrong. But it appears that, when the FBI seized Ross Ulbricht, grabbed his computer, got his computer, what they found was that these 39,000 Bitcoin had been stolen by a hacker from Silk Road.
Yeah.
And that Ross Ulbricht had been trying to get this back, I think, including threatening this guy or whatever. But the government, the U.S. government, has been keeping their eye on this wallet this whole time.
Right.
Because it feels it's owed this because they seized Silk Road and these are their coins. And then remember the big news the other day that $964 billion worth of Bitcoin, $1 million worth of Bitcoin moves for the first time since 2013.
Right.
And as soon as he moved it, apparently he got arrested or they seized him in some way.
Right.
And so they've been like, one just imagines that they had FBI agents literally watching him 24 hours a day, waiting for this to happen.
Sounds like it.
And they got him and they've got the coins because, again, I'm assuming they say, look, this guy Ross Ulbricht, he's in Supermax in Colorado for the next 2 lifetimes.
Right. As Jameson Law pointed out on Twitter, that didn't have to be that way. I mean, he could have done OPSEC. He could have done ways to avoid that in terms of getting his Bitcoin seized, number one. It was incredibly foolish.
Who, Ross or this new guy?
The new guy.
Okay.
The new guy could have done things differently and not had to give up his Bitcoin, number one. So Jameson Lopp, of course, is one of the 2 or 3 guys you must follow on Twitter.
For OPSEC, yeah.
For OPSEC, certainly. And but he, is a great guy to dig into why that guy made huge blunt. He does very carelessly.
Okay, that's
gave
interesting.
It away, number one. Number two, this should be a good lesson to everybody that you need to secure your Bitcoin. And Casa, where Jameson Lopp is, we're investors in Casa. And they offer vaulting service, multi-sig vaulting service in a way that is state-of-the-art, the best in the industry, the best in the business.
Keys.casa.
Keys.casa. This is the best way for you to secure your Bitcoin. And so it effectively becomes unconfiscatable, but you would still have access to it. So that should be noted.
Though, I mean, if you're dumb enough to get arrested by the FBI and they tell you, do you want 2 lifetimes in the Supermax or do you want to give us your Bitcoin private keys?
Yeah.
A lot of people are going to say, okay, I'll give you my private keys.
Yeah. However, you would have been at least in a better negotiating position.
Yeah.
Because it is $1 billion. So
that's what I'm saying. I'm assuming that they knew it's 39,000, and I'm assuming he said, like, okay, I'll do a year and I'll give you the address, the keys. Like, I'm assuming he negotiated, but something's gone down. We'll probably hear more information over the next upcoming weeks. But,
true.
But I'm assuming he took the negotiating power because they have in the filings it didn't mention that he's in prison or in jail or anything like that. So I think.
Right, but at Casa, you can set it up in such a way where you would get extra layers. I'm not going to go into it because I don't have my notes in front of me and I don't want to misrepresent the product. But and it's curious. I mean, we should get Jameson on to talk about it.
Yeah, let's get him on.
Let's get Jameson on to talk about this more, and he'll get it right from Jameson. And this way, we'll get the straight dope from the main man. And
yeah, actually, we have our guest tomorrow has to cancel, so maybe we'll get for Orange Pill podcast this weekend. We'll get Jameson on because he's a good guy.
This is a really good topic to discuss. Then what else was I going to say about this bust?
Max is Gaga Chad, not, you know,
Giga? This
instead of
beyond
Giga
Giga?
Chad is beyond Giga. But you're an entertainer too, like Lady Gaga. You're Maxi Gaga.
Maxi Gaga?
So yeah, so this guy, we'll find out more information. Which I'm just telling you the random bits of information that are currently available, and they could end up being wrong. And the government, of course, does lie like a sack of shit all the time. So it could be total lies so far that they've told. But
True.
at the moment, we do know for a fact that the $1 billion worth of Bitcoin moved about 2 days ago.
The second thing I wanted to point out is that oftentimes you hear that, well, Bitcoin's only good for use in criminal activity. Well, no, because for this very reason.
Yeah.
It's very easy, or somewhat easy, to track where these coins are going. It's unlike anonymous fiat money in a suitcase. You have no way of knowing what's going on there.
Yeah, that is a problem. It's a huge problem in terms of privacy that it can be tracked. So they are developing things like on Lightning and Liquid. They're trying to develop ways to be more private so that you can't get pounced on by feds.
There's like two answers to that. First of all, that idea that it's not as fungible as, or that it's that it's used in drug use is false, because it's actually a bad conduit for illicit activity for that very reason. That's point number one. Point number two is we need to work on that.
Yeah, we need to improve it. Yeah, no, because it needs to be. Because
it needs to be used more in illicit activity.
Yeah, definitely. It was used. It wasn't a lie that early on in Bitcoin in 2010 and 11, it was primarily used on Silk Road and porn sites. So it was indeed used for that, because they were cut off from payments processors.
Right.
So it's not like Silk Road could go to PayPal and set up something.
There's nothing more American than encryption. Did you ever see that series Turn? You remember we saw that? It's about the American Revolution. And it's all about how during the American Revolution here, when the American colonies were getting ready to stage the revolution, and during the revolution against the English, how encryption played such a huge role. And so the plot kind of turns on ever expanding ways that they figured out how to send encrypted messages amongst the colonies to defeat the English. So without encryption, there would be no United States of America today. Encryption is at the core of what makes America America, and Bitcoin is encryption. And without it, we will never have relief or protection from the bullies and the statists.
Right. And I guess we're going to wrap this up. I'm going to be on this Bitcoin Magazine virtual cocktail hour tonight. So if you want to go to Twitter and look that up of where they're hosting that. That's why I kept my margarita pretty tiny, small.
I see. You've got, it is time to get off this podcast, because I've lost the ability to think completely now. My verbal skills are now falling. They're now dying. The battery that runs my brain is now at low. It needs more something. Coffee, I think.
We still don't have a new president.
No, that won't be resolved for a while. It could be at least another 10 to 14 days.
I thought you were going to say 10 to 14 months.
No, 10 to 14 days.
I think it could be months.
Now, the longer it drags out, the better it is for Trump.
And the better it is for Bitcoin, I thought you were going to say.
Yeah, Bitcoin, of course. Bitcoin is looking at this chaos and saying, ka-ching, ka-ching. So, Trump is the ultimate Bitcoiner, because he was willing to sacrifice the White House for us. Thank you, Donald Trump.
Right. Anyway, so thank you. It was fun hanging out with you tonight. We haven't really done, we've never done a microdose this late. So usually we're doing it in the afternoon. But, this week has been busy with the post-election stuff and, all sorts of crazy, because our editor also works on some other news programs. So it's, it's been fun hanging out with you and, sharing disinfo with you in terms of like Morton Downey Jr. and Rebecca De Mornay.
That was a low point of the whole podcast.
And now we'll go find out if Keanu Reeves responds to any of these vast conspiracy theories.
He's watching right now, and he's composing an angry tweet.
I feel bad. Like, he has this girlfriend. They look like a cool couple. And I feel like they might end up getting in a fight because she's going to, like, you never told me about Stacy. And I'm going to be
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm-hmm. And then Billy Bob Thornton showed up at the Sunset Marquee, and things got weird.
ciao.
Bye now.